Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport, and today was the second round of the Extreme E Championship taking place in Senegal on the wet sand in front of the ocean, which was the focus of today's environmental message. So it was better than the first round, and we'll get into that in a minute, but if you haven't, please subscribe. We are really hurtling towards 400, want to get there as soon as possible, so thank you for your support, and with that, let's begin the rest of the video.
Welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport.
So I said that the first round of Extreme E had a few issues. It wasn't necessarily the most exciting motorsport event ever, and there's a few tweaks that they should make. And they have tweaked the format somewhat. So we had 4 cars in the final instead of 3, which didn't really work out as planned. And there was also I can't remember what they called it now, was it Super Sector? So it's like a part of the track where the person with the quickest time through that section would get an extra 5 points. That is a good idea. It's an extra bit of strategy. There may be cars that couldn't necessarily win or get through to the final, who could then maybe save their hyper boost or just really push just through that section, trying to get those extra 5 points. So it adds another layer of strategy. As for everything else, the complaints I still have. It breaks up the excitement too much to swap drivers. I know it's only 45 seconds to a minute, but you have sort of 10 minutes where the cars are going around, then they pull in, the drivers swap for a minute, and then they kick off again. That doesn't work for me. There must be another way to do that. I'm guessing you can't really make it quicker because it obviously takes time to get out of the car and get someone else in. But it just breaks up the action far too much. The other complaint that I still have is the lap is just too long. You want these cars racing close together. You can't have a 10-minute lap when there's such a big swing across all the drivers. You've got 9 cars, but the teams going for first are about a minute ahead of the cars, say, in 5th and 6th. And also, if you run into trouble in qualifying, you're kind of done. That happened to Sainz and Sands. Car broke down on the first qualifying one, and their weekend's over because they're not going to get out of qualifying, so they've only got the shootout race. That being said, this was better than the first round. I mean, the final was a little bit of a letdown, but we'll get to that in a minute. It was nice seeing Jamie Chadwick finally get a drive, and they had a great weekend. They finished second. After Saudi Arabia, where they were out of it again after the first run because Sarazan rolled the car and wrecked it and they couldn't carry on. So Chadwick didn't get to drive in Saudi Arabia. It was nice to see her finally get in the car and get a decent run out. And it was an amazing event for them, really. I don't think they expected to finish second. They weren't the second fastest car all weekend, but they were very lucky to finish second. They sort of capitalised on others' issues. So we didn't have Claudia Hergen either because she was out with a stomach bug. And so what was the name of the driver who replaced her? Claudia Heinschnitt? She's the Dakar lady. I can't remember her name. It was sort of an advantage apparently because she's a very experienced Dakar driver, but she's also, was it a development driver, or she's a stand-in for the drivers really. She did a really good job. She was probably better than Claudia Hergen, which, you know, if I was Extreme, I'd be pushing to have her replaced with her. That might be a bit mean. But they also ran into issues. And the other thing I don't like is you have the 3 fastest cars in the first semi-final, and only 2 of them go through to the final. And then the 4th and 5th fastest car can get through to the final, whilst the 3rd fastest car is out. For me, it should be mixed up like Rallycross. So the people who qualify first go against the people who qualified 3rd and 5th. And then another semi-final with the cars that finished 2nd, 4th and 6th. Top 2 of each of those go through, get your 4-car final. And as I said, the lap still too long for me. If they cut it down to like 5 minutes and then did 2 laps, that would be fine. by proxy. They're like, because the track is shorter, the cars are closer together by nature. There's still quite a big, well, there's potential for quite a big gap. The first semi-final was probably the best race because all three cars were really close together. And Ekstrom came in the lead, and then they had an issue at the driver change, and Heinschmidt fell back. She managed to close back up to about 3 seconds, and considering the time she lost, she probably did a really good job. Molly Taylor and Johan Kristoffersen, not necessarily during qualifying, they seemed to struggle a bit, especially in the first qualifying, but by the semi-finals, they were the team to beat, and I think they will be all year, because Kristoffersen is an amazing driver. He pretty much wins in everything he races. And Molly Taylor, very experienced, a very successful rally driver in her own right. That is probably the best team. So they were lucky in the final, and the final was a bit of a mess because you had 4 cars, and they've been bigging up this 4-car thing all weekend. The first corner and 2 cars are out, so it's a 2-car race, and Veloce they did not have to pace the team Rosberg, so it was a pretty easy win for Kristoffersen in the end. It was disappointing because this was it. This was going to be the big change. 4 cars, all going at it. And I saw that the Button team's car, the rear wheel, was completely snapped and facing the wrong way. Didn't see what happened to Loeb's car. I'm guessing it was damaged. I know there was contact, so maybe they had a steering issue as well. But what that meant was it was just a really boring final because Kristoffersen just drove away. So yeah, as for me, there's still tweaks that need to be made. I'm sure they'll get there eventually. This is an ongoing thing. There's only 5 rounds this year. I don't know if that's the strategy going forward to have only a handful of rounds. But obviously the W Series starts soon, so Jamie Chadwick's going to be busy. So I don't know if there's any crossover between 2 series. I hope not, because I like to see her in this. She's doing a really good job. She stayed out of trouble, which I think every other driver, bar a handful, have had an issue of some sort. And she seems to do really, really well. But I think going forward, I think they can tweak it a bit more. There's still more to be done to make the racing more exciting. But otherwise, this was very, very good. It was a vast improvement. And if it improves further, this is going to be a top racing series. In a few years, once they maybe have got a few drivers who've done it for a few years, I'm sure they'll all close up. They'll all be used to the different surfaces. And it was a kind of stupid to have 2 sand ones next to each other. I know it's like a different kind of sand. But why not have Saudi Arabia, then have the Greenlands rally, and then the forest one is in Brazil, I can't remember where it is now, and then have the other sand one, because it's mixed it up a little bit more. So yeah, it's good. There's still changes that need to be made, but I think they're on the right track, and it was vastly more entertaining than Saudi Arabia. As for the environmental part of it, they didn't mention the Paris-Dakar rally, and this was taking place as either in Dakar or near Dakar. So this has a place with a history of motorsport, and they did not mention it. That's because the Paris-Dakar rally did a lot of damage to Senegal and didn't really benefit anyone. There was always a big complaint that the drivers didn't actually spend money locally, so the locals never really profited if any of the rallies, and then they're kind of just left to clean up the mess afterwards. So there's like a big environmental damage and no real economic gain. So in the episode of this, they were talking about planting mangroves to help the environment, getting involved with the locals. That's good to hear. It's nice that they're making an effort and the environmental message is actually important. The actual bits where they're showing the things that could happen to the ocean and that, it's a little bit over dramatic, bit preachy, but it's fine. It's fairly interesting. They keep it interesting enough that you can put up with it. And they have like little messages on the screen whilst the race is going on. If you catch them, I wasn't really paying attention to them because I'm watching the racing. It's not the best time to do it. Maybe have a few messages before the start of the race and during the perfect time during the driver changeover, but not whilst the race is actually going on because my attention's elsewhere. So yeah, there's still changes to be made, but this was vastly more entertaining. Extreme E is definitely worth watching. There's not another round till the end of August, so we got what, 3 months, which is a long time to wait, but I am still looking forward to it. I'm still enjoying this series. So keep watching. Remember to subscribe. Thank you for watching and have a good one.